Good morning, everybody. Welcome in to Coffee Break presented by Bathfooter. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. There's a ton to get into with the Super Bowl, so I'm excited to sit down and talk with DMAC and James Marilat. Plus, we're also talking about the Broncos defensive coordinator position and who we think they should hire, and if that includes Rex Ryan in the mix because we know he got interviewed. We're also going to get into some Nuggets talk. Plus, we're doing way too early predictions for next year's Super Bowl. Let's get into it. Roll it. DMAC.
Welcome back.
I know we're here. Yes, excited to be back. Honestly, traveling was a lot of fun, but I will say there's something about sitting down at your own desk and like knowing your routine that's very comforting. James Marilat, how are you also this morning?
I'm doing well, and I couldn't agree more. We had a great week in Phoenix, but it was nice to just be back to the old routine today, have my own coffee cup,
Yep.
all that kind of good stuff.
Yep.
What was the highlight of the trip?
Ooh, the Friday night party with Rondé and Tiki Barber and John Lynch. I mean, that was pretty good. That was
Talk
a
to
good one.
us. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was super booked. They were throwing that party because Rondé is one of their folks, and then he got elected into the Hall of Fame on Thursday night. So they had the big party on Friday. It's like a lot of those things. I'm old, so the fact that it doesn't get rolling until like 10, I'm like,
Ouch.
oh my gosh, what are we doing here? But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. We saw a lot of people. Not only those types of names, but a lot of the Denver folks were there, and we got to bump into them and chat with them and catch up with them. So it was a really nice time. It was great. It was a good way to end what was a great week. There really wasn't a bad part of it. So that probably was top of the list for me, but the whole thing was fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say for me it was just kind of, this is like the most cliche thing to say, but like the whole entire trip, right? Like I learned so much about what it's like to actually go to the Super Bowl and to experience everything. But like we just had so much fun. Like James and like everybody we were with, we went to a bunch of dinners, so we like all got to chat, talk about work outside of work, if that makes any sense. Like I was shocked by how many conversations still revolved around work, even though you're just like hanging out. But then yeah, the Super Bowl party was a blast. I got to interview Rondé, which was really cool and like a total honor by me to sit down and chat with him. There was just like a lot of fun things. Troy B did ask in the comments, what were your best and worst experiences of your first Super Bowl? I would say the like worst in a way that I just wasn't expecting it was how many handlers there are for all of the top athletes. Like I was like mind blown by the entourages that follow around these athletes, and I'm like, you guys, y'all are grown men. Can you not get from one place to another? But then the best was just being able to be down there, and it was beautiful weather, and James jumping in the pool. I saw that comment already. It was overall just very solid. I had a wonderful time in Arizona, and huge thank you to Superbook too for sending me out there.
Hey, speaking of Superbook, real quick, props to Rondé. I got to do a whole little thing with Rondé during the Stanley Cup Final down in Tampa, and we had a really fun morning just shooting some stuff together for Superbook, and I won the bet that I had with Rondé, and he was such a cool guy. I don't know how much time you guys got to spend with him, but super down to earth, really relatable, funny, and I was just absolutely thrilled to somebody that I actually hung around with and I didn't know before gets elected in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it was so cool. So happy for him.
And I didn't know before we were down there, and before, not just us, but a lot of the other people that are sort of in that circle that we're dealing with or hanging out with Rondé. Did you know he's like best friends with Nathaniel Hackett?
I did not know. Wow. I don't even know where that connection would come from.
I don't either. But my buddy Doug was doing an interview with Rondé for something, and Rondé just pulls up Nathaniel Hackett on FaceTime. They had a nice little chat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Was Hackett in a good mood?
He was. He seemed relieved to be in New York. And I'm paraphrasing here, and I don't want to tell too many stories out of school, but It was, I got some stories to tell you.
Okay. They'll come out eventually. I think we can guess where they're going, but, it all comes down the wash one way or the other.
I think I just made sure I'm not invited back next year because apparently I can't keep secrets. But
no, I mean, listen, Sean Payton has said this. When you have a bad season, there's, what do you say, mud, dirt on everybody's hands. I mean, sure. I mean, that happens every year. There's reasons why teams win. there's reasons why teams lose. That's always, to me, the most interesting part of going to the Super Bowl is to find out the answer to that question. What do you guys do better than we do? Most years. The only year I did not feel like that was when the Ravens were in the Super Bowl, because I thought the Broncos were a better team. It was a freaky weather occurrence and Raheem Moore and all sorts of garbage. It was the only year that I was, down there with the team in the Super Bowl where I strongly felt the team that I covered and was around was actually better than them and deserved to be there more. I had no questions that year. Other than that, watch the game yesterday. Wow. What a game. Between both teams. And there are just so many areas where both of those teams are better than the Broncos. It's scary.
Okay, well, let's get into our Super Bowl reactions because there is a ton to discuss. And obviously, the big one is the play. Oh, there goes James, too. Hold on 1 second. There we go. I love this open real quick. Let's get into our Super Bowl reactions because this is something interesting. Where was this the best game we ever saw with the worst ending? And I want to preface this with saying, yes, everybody, it was a holding call. The player whose name I'm blanking right now, he admitted it was a holding call.
Bradbury.
It was a holding call. But in that moment, it's one of those things you just don't call because it can have such an effect on the game. So I want to ask you guys, was it the best game with the worst ending that you have seen, D-Mac?
The best game with the worst ending. Well, I guess I'm going to deny your premise a little bit, Rachel, because I didn't have a problem with the call. I know a lot of people have, but, football games in the NFL have penalties like that all the time. There's all sorts of ticky-tack little penalties that get called at the end of National Football League games. And if you're going to call a penalty, that's a penalty, and everybody agrees it's a penalty, then call a penalty. Let the chips fall where they may. If the Eagles wanted to win that game, then, how about not jumping off sides on 3rd and 1, and on the next play, it's a fumble, scoop, and score. How about not blowing a 10-point lead? How about making a defensive stop so the ball doesn't get down that low? There's so many other areas. And by the way, that wasn't it. The game wasn't over. How do you know the Chiefs weren't just going to get a first down on the next play? To think that that play ended the game to me is preposterous.
It of course ended the game. They ran the ball. They tried to let him score on the next play, and he fell down at the 1. They took a knee twice and kicked a field goal with 8 seconds left. It of course ended the game.
All right, not ended the game, decided the game. There were so many other ways that you could have come back. And by the way, how do you know? So what hypothetical were we all rooting for? The Eagles to get the ball back after they kicked a field goal, and the Eagles come down and win? Is that what
we'd like to see him have a chance?
Chance? They scored 35 points. They had plenty of chances.
35-35, a minute 54 to go. I know we were all hoping we'd get to see a ref throw a flag, somebody slide down on their butt at the 1, and Mahomes take a knee twice, and then watch Butker kick a 20-yard field goal.
You know what's crazy about you, James, on this? You hate replay, right?
Hate it.
But what you're advocating for is some sort of review of flags. You are advocating right now to review flags.
It was a terrible call. And everybody that says, well, if you want replay at the beginning, it's a penalty now. If you call that penalty in the second quarter, the Eagles have time to recover from it. When you call it in that instance, there's no chance for recovery. It decides the game in the Super Bowl in a 35-35 game. It better be egregious to throw a flag.
If Bradbury doesn't hold on him, Juju Smith-Schuster scores an easy touchdown. Easy touchdown. And by the way, the call was not pass interference anyways. It was holding. It's a 5-yard penalty. It just so happens it gives you a first down. It wasn't PI. And so whether he could have caught the ball or not is absolutely irrelevant. It's whether it was a penalty.
It's a terrible call. And the NFL has an issue because there are 2 calls that are completely subjective that they can throw a flag on any play and dictate the pace of the game, help people get back into the game. It's offensive holding. So if somebody's rolling offensively and you're trying to keep the game from getting out of hand, couple holding penalties, it's 1st and 20, it's 2nd and 25. All of a sudden the other team's getting the ball back, and it's PI/defensive holding. They're ridiculous because you can call it on every play. They dictate the pace of the game every game. And people can just dismiss it and say it's a loser's lament, and there's all kinds of other chances to make plays, and where's your tinfoil hat? Okay, you were telling me the same thing, not you, but royal you, but about the NBA, and then Tim Donaghy came out. So the NFL can sit here and bury their head in the sand, but the end of the last 2 games for the Chiefs, the referees effectively ended the game. That's bad for their product, because at some point, if people don't have faith in the integrity of the game, they quit watching, they quit wagering, and they quit caring, and they'll move on to something else.
D-Mac?
Oh, listen, I know I have the unpopular opinion that I just like football, and inherently that's part of football. We have some really interesting people out there who are so bizarrely selfish. They just want another cup of ice cream, another scoop of ice cream. They want a little extra, chocolate sauce on it. They're not happy just with the banana split. They require the cherry. And if you don't get the cherry, the entire banana split sucks. The same people I believe that, are upset about a penalty being called, to me, are the same people that didn't like the halftime show. It's just.
In this instance, you're right.
Well, no. In every instance,
20 minutes of the exact same thing.
There's a grumpy, get off my lawn sort of.
Right. Throw out boomer.
I don't know what to call it. It's as if the sport owes you something, or Rihanna owes you something, aside from 12 minutes of absolute bangers that she sings live along with the track. Like every single halftime performance ever.
Okay, so about the halftime show, the first 2 minutes, really cool. The fact that the next 10 minutes were exactly the same thing. Okay, she's on a floating stage. Great. She's going to lip sync some hits that we all heard a decade ago. I didn't need 12 minutes of it. It was 2. It never changed.
Lip sync hits that were a decade ago. Last year's halftime show featured every performer was like 50 years old from songs from 20 years ago.
It was a 12-minute episode of Squid Game with Rihanna in the middle of it. That's what it was.
It was cool as hell. The fact that she's pregnant was incredibly empowering. It was one woman. Maybe that's threatening to you, James. One strong, powerful woman being able to hold the stage by herself. I guess that's boring. The show ended with Shine Bright Like a Diamond. She is like 70 yards above the field, encircled by light. It was freaking awesome. Never mind, she's pregnant, as she reveals. And, Squid Game, fashion, James. I don't expect you to, be a fashionista on this. But listen, I'll tell you this. I was in a room. I was in a unique place. I can't,
just for the record, I can't dislike any female artist's performance, right? Because it's threatening. That's where we're at.
You can do whatever you want.
We're 2023.
All right.
2023 in this thing. I like Katy Perry for the record.
We got one person who loved it. We got one person who didn't like it. I didn't think it was very good, and I'm a huge Rihanna fan. I've seen her in concert before. I will say, James, I saw your tweet about lip syncing it. She did lip sync probably like 60%, but some of the vocals she hit were definitely her own. It's not like that in the song.
Like every halftime performance, it's a track, and you sing along with parts of it. Everybody does that. Literally everybody does that in the Super Bowl. Everybody. But I got you. Not good enough. Not good enough for James and a lot of people. But I was in a room. I was in a unique place. I was at Top Golf in a big sports bar area in San Jose, California. Long story how I got there, but that's where I was. Rihanna came on stage. For the Super Bowl yesterday? What's that?
For the Super Bowl yesterday?
Yes.
How are you here?
Did you teleport?
No. Do you want the story right now?
Yes.
Okay. Very
We're
quickly.
talking about Arizona, and we've been back longer than you have. So, yes, I would love the story.
Very quickly. My son has had an interesting baseball journey and is now in junior college. Things, worked out where he was going to get his first starts ever of his college career. He started 3 straight games. We had a very good feeling he was going to start on Saturday. That's the only game we could get to at Butte College, where Aaron Rodgers played football in his junior college year. It's near Chico, California. which is in the middle of nowhere. They grow walnuts and they have rice patties. No joke up there. Other than that, there's nothing around. So we flew up last second to see our son play. They lost a very close game, 9-8. All right. And we surprised them. We didn't know it. So for the Super Bowl, because we were flying back last night at 8 p.m. from the San Jose airport to just kill some time and have some fun, we played 2 hours of Topgolf while we watched the first half of the Super Bowl. When the first half ended, we were done. There's a gargantuan, huge sports bar, like a monster TV, like a big bar area. And that's where we watched the halftime show. The rest of the second half, we just watched at the airport. So we saw the whole game. We got on a flight at 8 o'clock. There were 25 people on the Southwest flight. The person at the gate literally said, well, there's just 25 of you, so just come on board. It never happened to me before like that. Flew right in, was back home by 11 p.m. So that's my little story. Now, Rihanna. So I'm watching, and, it's a lot of women in the audience right then and there. They loved her eyebrow raising, her down looking, her moves. They were dancing. They were singing along. They had a great time. So what I realized for the halftime show, James, it's not for you. Rachel, I'm a little surprised. I got to admit, I'm a little surprised. But it's clearly not for you. These are the same people that hate Dinger. They're for 5-year-olds, y'all. You hate Dinger. That's more of a you problem than a Dinger problem.
I like Dinger.
Okay.
Listen, if somebody asks if I like the halftime show or not, I just am supposed to say it's not for me. I don't know.
Yes. Your opinion doesn't count. It's not for you. It's for another significant audience the NFL is trying to tap into. And it's not you, James. It's not you. It's for other people. And for other people, at least the ones I was around, they were so into it. I mean, so into it. And as soon as the second half started, they left. It's just a different deal. So complaining about the halftime show. What would you like to see, James?
I'm old.
Halftime show.
I'm an old guy who thinks singers should sing.
She was singing.
I will say.
Wait, hold on. Are you not aware of how it works, though, James? You don't realize that these artists sing along with tracks that they recorded, but they do sing good chunks of it live, but not all of it. You understand that, right?
D-Mac is so pissed off.
The percentage. It was the percentage that bothered me. You know who I want? I want Taylor Swift. That's who I want.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. Wait till next year. You probably get her. She's fantastic.
So does Will Peterson. He wants that.
And she'll do the same thing. She'll have backing tracks that she sings along with for portions of it. Guaranteed. So
I'll concede that point. She just needs to be better at lip syncing. Not be moving your mouth while the microphone's over here.
Okay, 2 things I want to add to this. First of all, her marketing placement by putting on her makeup for her brand, incredible. Everyone's figuring out what she was putting on her face. So I guarantee, if you guys, did you even think about that?
No, that's a great point, though. I did not know that. No.
Incredible businesswoman. Businesswoman all the way.
You like it less.
And then the only thing that I really hated was I thought they were going to do some like big anticipation for her, right? But it was just like the face, I get it. It's like going viral right now of her little smirk. She looks evil. But I wanted some big moment where she was going to like pop out and they had like lyrics going before and like some crazy open. That's where I was disappointed.
Yeah, but to break down the halftime show, they had to end with her elevated 70 yards because shine bright like a diamond. So they started backwards. They were like, well, how do we end here? And then they just sort of worked that way. I thought it was cool. I love the use of the sky cam, the everybody dressed up in the white. I don't even know, the hoodie, the t-shirt. I don't know. I thought that looked cool. Did it look like, the leftovers from the Squid Game? All right, sure. But it was fun. It was different. For 12 minutes, I was thoroughly entertained.
I don't disagree with any of that. We just saw that in the first 2 minutes. And nothing else happened. That was my issue.
Okay.
That was my issue. Now, we find out she was pregnant, so that does limit how much...
Yeah, that doesn't impress you?
That impresses me. I didn't know it at the time when I'm watching it going, how come nothing's happening?
Yeah.
Well, hey, it adds... First of all, I thought it was a slam and halftime show, just period, in his presentation. To find out that she was pregnant, that she went through all of that stress and all that work and all that while she was pregnant... Hey, Ree, I got your back.
We found
she hid it from everyone because nobody knew she was pregnant. She did media before, like everything. She did a great job at hiding it. However, players are pissed off because of the field, which this is actually crazy. I've never seen such a slippery field in my life, especially one that cost $800,000, and they removed it every single day for the last 2 weeks so that it could get its daily sunshine. Like, this is actually insane to me. But just the fact that it was so bad and everyone complained about it, despite it being worse so much, like, that's what's blowing my mind about this entire thing, James.
Yeah, no doubt. But Rachel, we kind of joked about it all week when we were down there, but the weather was quirky. Like, if you were in the shade, it was freezing, and if you were in the sun, it felt like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna melt. And there was one day, I think it was day one, Thursday, where the Waste Management Phoenix Open started late because of frost. Yeah. Like, it was a little bit of a quirky kind of weather week down there. Mm-hmm. You know, it's sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But this one was $800,000. How much was the one Greg Penner put in for the finale? Was it 8-4? It was 4. So he did the Walmart.
He did $100.4 million worth of field improvements in the offseason. Because that game was a preseason game. 100.4. So it was 0.4, James. 0.4.
It was the Walmart field. He got the discount one.
He got the point, went into the 0.4 bin for the field. Listen, the field was, here's the irony. We actually have seen this before. Super Bowl 50 in Santa Clara, not San Francisco. I was just there. By the way, Topgolf, I could see Levi Stadium, which was like, but I didn't even notice that for like an hour. I'm like, oh, there's the stadium where the Broncos won a Super Bowl, believe it or not. But the field was brutal 7 years ago, too. Listen, fields, grass is not in the wintertime supposed to look like that, okay? It just isn't. So they trick it up, they paint it, they do all sorts of weird things to make it look good. What you need to do, I hate to say this, but for the safety of the players, you need some sort of grass, turf blend, period. So they're more or less playing on some forms of turf. That was incredibly unsafe, and it wasn't good for the play of the game. Players were slipping all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's odd to me, too, that they didn't discover that it was that way in warm-ups, right? They kept changing cleats. Like, you would have thought it was the same in warm-ups.
The Chiefs knew it. The Eagles didn't. The Chiefs didn't change their cleats at all. The Eagles did. So the Eagles screwed it up for whatever reason. The Chiefs didn't make an adjustment. And I don't recall many Chiefs guys slipping around. I'm trying to think. It felt like it was more Eagles guys slipping around. But ridiculous. This is silly, stupid stuff. You know, I mean, it's dumb. And I'm sorry to see it. It did happen. And Super Bowl 50, Rachel, was like an ice skating rink in Santa Clara.
But in a 38-35 game, so far we've talked about a bad call, a bad field, and a mediocre halftime show. It's like Titanic, where it ends bad because the lady throws the diamond in the ocean.
Wow. I was talking about a great played game, the right call at the end, ending like a lot of football games, and a banger slamming halftime show. There's zero doubt I enjoyed that experience much more than you did, James. And I laughed at some of the commercials, too.
I did, too.
Are you sure? Are you sure you didn't hate those as well?
No.
How about the one where it made everybody think somebody sat on the remote? Like it started. That was very well done.
James, do you realize that was the same app when we were in Arizona that we were like, let's see if we can get something on this?
Yeah, exactly. It's like this. I know that thing doesn't work. I was telling that story yesterday to the people I was with. I'm like, yeah, they can do all the ads they want. I've tried their product. I'm out.
Oh, I'm with you. Another person, though, who is kind of taking the Twitter world by storm is Melvin Gordon because well, let's see. Just because it's interesting. It's interesting that he has decided to just roll with the punches, and he posted this. And D-Mac, I just got your chin right here, so I'm just gonna have you lift the camera just a smidge.
Okay.
Oh, maybe not. Okay, we'll see if he
I'm
comes
good.
back. But anyways, let's talk about Melvin Gordon because
Do you want me to reboot?
oh, Melvin. He obviously gets cut by the Broncos, goes down to the practice squad. He talked to our very own Andrew Mason earlier this week about how, he had some issues with his coaching and yada, 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 saying there were temper tantrums. But James, he wins a Super Bowl ring being on a practice squad, and he is excited about it. Is he in hot water for this because he didn't take a single snap? Or are you saying no, it's okay because he's played football for a long enough time and he was a part of a winning team, and that's that?
I'm going to go with B because here's the thing, Rachel. What do I want him to do? Right?
Mm-hmm.
He's on the team. He's there. Is he supposed to be the guy that sits in the corner and is unhappy while everybody else is celebrating? I don't think that's a very viable option. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He was part of the team. It's really easy to say, hey, he had as many plays in the Super Bowl as you and I did. True. That's true. But when you're on the practice squad, you're helping, literally during practice and things like that. Like, he did play a role, small role, but he played a role. I'm not gonna give him too much grief for this, especially he's had a frustrating year. I'm sure to cap it off with a positive was a good thing. Would you have more fun with it if you'd rushed for 120 yards and a couple of touchdowns? Sure, but hey, he's there. He's going to enjoy the party. Why not?
I would too. D-Mac?
Yeah, it was a weird look. All right, I'm fine with it. I mean, he's on the team. You get the trophy. I mean, Chad Henne was posing, and he barely played, and he almost played. He could have played easily.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. Like, I'm not as harsh about that because it really seriously takes everything to win a championship. Nobody just wins it on their own, and everybody has a different role to play. And sometimes those roles seem insignificant, but it's just part of the plan. And either, it's all part of the team. Andrew Mason has a Super Bowl ring, rightfully so. He worked for the team when they won a Super Bowl, and he's part of that organization. He gets a ring. Nah, you're part of the organization. You get that championship moment. I don't have a problem with it. People around here just hate Melvin Gordon. It's much more about just hating Melvin Gordon than anything.
But see, I've seen a lot more of other fans, not necessarily Broncos fans, trashing Melvin because he didn't take a single snap. Like, he did nothing, but he's the one that's posting all this big stuff, and he's quote tweeting people. Like, I've seen other fans be hating on Melvin Gordon, less than Bronco fans, surprisingly.
Yeah, well, I would question what championships those people have won in their lives and, what role they've had. And if the group has success and you're part of the group, I think you should take pride in that. It's easy just to assume if you were a professional athlete, you'd be the star, okay? First of all, the vast majority of people out there are not going to be professional athletes, period. But why are you less than because you have what is perceived to be a less than role? I think that's silly, and I think that's very short-sighted. And I would encourage people to be on more teams in their lives.
No, I 100% agree with you, D-Mac. And it's one of those things, too, you try and look at it and say, well, what would I do in that situation? Or what would I advise my kid or my nephew or whatever else to do if, hey, you're in this spot and you're not the star, maybe you've been it in the past, and you're like, you be a good teammate, be a part of the experience, be a part of the celebration. If they had lost, be a part of, hey, consoling your teammates and rallying the troops. Like, that's how you're supposed to do it, and still bang on Melvin Gordon. The guy can't win to some extent, so I'm with you on this, D-Mac. We finally found one.
Took time.
Raise your hand if you would celebrate if you won a Super Bowl like Melvin Gordon did, because I know I would.
I would. Heck yeah.
I would too. Now listen, there's a question about posting and bragging about it. That's sort of a different conversation. But
True.
I don't know, whatever. You're a champion. You're there. Broncos fans aren't. It's the way it goes. If we don't like it, beat the Chiefs. It's pretty damn simple. I mean, and what Patrick Mahomes has done, it's funny. I looked up what a dynasty actually is, like a sports dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I thought they were there. They're not. They're not quite there. I went through a list of like NFL dynasties. The most common thread is 3 championships in a relative short period of time. So, okay, fine. I'm not going to fight that fight, but they're damn close. And Patrick Mahomes, he's a first ballot, unanimous Hall of Famer tomorrow. The end. And he's 27, guys. Same age as Nikola Jokic. How about that? So what kind of years are in front of, well, both of those guys? And I bet you there's a longer professional career for Mahomes than Jokic.
It's interesting. All right. Well, we are running out of time here on the show. It goes oh so quick, but we have to get to, are we going to see Rex Ryan as the next defensive coordinator of the Denver Broncos? We know Sean Payton did an interview with him. He's still working for ESPN. Obviously, they were both at Super Bowl week, yada, yada, yada. Would you like to see this, or are you both saying, no, find somebody else, James?
I don't think he's going to be the defensive coordinator, but I'd be fine with it if he was. Rex Ryan was a really good defensive coach. He was. Now, you can debate whether or not he was a good head coach. I'd say he was fine. I mean, he did get to 2 AFC title games with Mark Sanchez at quarterback, and it was largely because his defense was good. And the one thing about it is he always had a way to kind of decode the team in his division that was at the top of the heap, and that was the Patriots. That was Tom Brady and the Patriots. He gave him fits. So if you're trying to put together a defense that, hey, we got somebody in our division, you may have two if you look at Justin Herbert, that we got to figure out some sort of plan for, okay, I'd be fine with Rex Ryan. At this point, though, like, who's the list of candidates? Like, we need to, do we have a top 5? Do we know who's on this board? Do we know who's in contention? Rex Ryan would be fine. I just wish that if they hire Rex Ryan, the NFL has to waive their rule about Hard Knocks that you can't have a first-year head coach. Because Sean Payton, Rex Ryan, Russell Wilson, this team on Hard Knocks, oh my gosh, talk about reinvigorating that franchise. That'd be fantastic.
I'm a big fan of us, denversports.com, and the fan. And so for that reason and that reason alone, I welcome the chaos. That would be Sexy Rexy, up at that podium once a week. Oh my God. I mean, I would absolutely love it. Hey, do we trust Sean Payton or not? If we trust Sean Payton, this is what coaches do. They manage games, they hire a staff, they set the agenda and the tone for the team. That is the number one job of the head coach. So at this point, if you like Sean Payton, and I do like the hiring, I'm like, okay, sure. I mean, whatever you want. This is what you've earned. This is what, was forked up to get you with the draft picks and all that. So I think it's more of a courtesy thing. I don't think he really has a shot at it either. I know what you're saying, James. I might venture to guess that our next defensive coordinator may be coming from the Eagles or from the Chiefs. I just don't know who all those people may be. I think Steichen is going to be the head coach with the Colts, and I think Gannon's going to go to the Cardinals at this point. But who else is there? And maybe we should sort of pay attention to that, because other than that, there's nothing that stops Sean Payton from hiring somebody now that he's back to work today. Because Sean Payton, as we saw over this past week, loves the spotlight. Doesn't like it, loves it. So I hope everybody's ready for that. I'm just going to throw it out there right now. It's a minor red flag. It's a small red flag. It's not a major one. It's not a big one. You got two dudes who love that spotlight with Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. That's going to be interesting.
No,
I'm with you.
It not only loves the spotlight, but the Sean Payton Gronkowski thing, like, it got so corny. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we got another corny person who loves the spotlight. Like, it was cringeworthy. Can we just have somebody in a position of importance on that team that just rolls up their sleeves and works? I'm just begging for it. I'm dying for it. I did think, though, you mentioned the Eagles defense. They brought in Vic Fangio for 2 years, and they forced 0 turnovers and had 0 sacks. That is a Vic Fangio template right there.
But why would you even bring him in when the Broncos never beat the Chiefs under him? Like, he was never able to stop him. That just blows my mind.
Well, and it undermines your defensive staff, right? Like, hey, guys, thanks for getting us here. Oh. Hey, Jonathan Gannon, I know you're a head coaching candidate in various places, but we got to bring in Uncle Vic to come decode this team that he never beat. It made no sense. None at all.
Got me. You got what you asked for on that one. And by the way, it shouldn't have been 38 points. It should have been 41, because we got a doink on a field goal by Butker. I mean, good job, Vic.
That on your bingo.
Yeah, how good job keeping the Chiefs to under 42. I mean, way to go.
Yeah, it was a brutal decision. Brutal. Now, the numbers were a little bit skewed because essentially the Chiefs scored 7 on defense and really 7 on special teams.
Oh, there you go.
Punt
Fair
return
enough.
down to the 4, which that broke my guy Jordan Norwood's punt return record.
I know.
Oh man.
Bummer. I know.
You got to hang out with them last week.
I'm
That's
a jinx.
bummer.
I am a jinx, no doubt.
Yeah, but hold on a second, Chance, because we're letting Vic Fangio off the hook, and I know you don't want to do that.
No.
I get it. Like on the punt, you're in easy position. How about being in the same area code as the? I mean, like,
Guy Moore was by himself.
you didn't read that all that well. Okay,
No.
fine. I'll give you credit on the the scoop and score, that sort of play. And by the way, as we break this stuff down, you realize it did not just come down to the holding call at the end. I mean, there was a whole series of things that were happening. I know you're disappointed by it. I know a lot of people are. But how many games, guys, end just like that in the NFL? All sorts of games end just like that. And by the way, you're not giving the Chiefs credit. They called an unusual play in that situation that would cause a penalty. So they get no credit whatsoever because they could have easily just run the ball there. And in fact, when they threw it, it was incomplete. I was like, oh, wow, what a super risky play. But high risk, high reward. They called a play, guys, that freaked out the Eagles defense that ended up getting a penalty because they made an unusual call. They don't get credit for that.
All right, gets a stretch. But look, Bradbury would have been better off to let it be a touchdown. He would have been. The game was over.
But he freaked out. Everybody thought they were going to run the ball. Everybody. And then they were going to call a timeout because an incomplete pass would just hurt you too much. It was a highly risky play by Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy. And I think they should get some credit for it. There's a lot of ways, guys, to get first downs. You know what I mean? As an what was that game years ago? The Broncos with Drew Lock, I think it was against the Chargers, just hucked one up there, and they got a PI, a stupid PI, and then they got a field goal after that. Chargers, right?
Yeah, right, that was Vic decided to call that play.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. He took credit.
He took credit.
That's right. But there's an example last night. So a play is a play, and you could get a first down a couple of different ways. So I got to give the Chiefs credit. They got the first down. You don't like it because it didn't feel right, but there's no difference between running, passing, and getting a flag for a first down. If the intent is to get a first down, it's a good offensive play.
I will say this. I do think the Broncos can take a cue from the way Andy Reid calls a game, the way Nick Sirianni calls a game, the way 3rd and 4 with Jalen Hurts is, we're in 4-down territory. I mean, I like both of their approaches to the game of we're here to win it, not to try and keep it to a 17-13 type game. That's part of what made it fun, and it's also part of why those two teams were there.
And by the way, if the teams you're playing against know you're going to take 2 plays to get 3 yards on 3rd and 3, if that's just who you are, they got to defend you differently. It actually opens things up. It, again, is like Jokic taking 3-pointers. He's got to take at least 3 or 4 a game because it just opens everything else up. It's an aggressive style, and what an offensive line for the Eagles, man. And Jalen Hurts has, it's a bummer. I'm sorry he made that mistake trying to transfer the ball for the scoop and score. Because other than that dude was freaking awesome. He was incredible. But he's going against arguably what may end up, could Mahomes actually surpass Brady as the greatest of all time? I mean, he's on that path.
Did you guys watch the game at all and watch the way Jalen attacked Kansas City and think that's how the Broncos need to play it with Russ?
Absolutely. 1,000%.
Yeah.
I also appreciated, not to cut you off, Jalen Hurts, though, telling Nick Sirianni when he was like waving to put his hand down. Like, I feel like that moment didn't get talked about, but talk about leadership from your quarterback saying, Coach, we got a long way to freaking go. Like, don't start this.
What was he doing? What was Sirianni actually doing at that moment?
I think he was trying to pump up the crowd or like wave to some of the fans that were booing. That's what I believe. Obviously, I wasn't in attendance, but that's what people on Twitter that were in attendance were saying.
Well, it was a heavy Chiefs crowd, which we anticipated after seeing all the Chiefs fans down there all week. I mean, when they would show the whole crowd shot, it was a sea of red. I get it. Red stands out and makes it look maybe a little more one-sided than it was. But, yeah, he was probably getting into it with the fans a little bit, egging them on a little bit. But But no, and it's a little bit the way Justin Outen used Russell Wilson in the second to last game of the year against the Chiefs, right? He had the read option, 20-yard touchdown run. Like that film is what Sean Payton should just tell Russell Wilson to watch over and over and over again, and that's what we want you to do. That's what
Well,
we
you
want.
gotta get your offensive line together because the Broncos' offensive line isn't close to the Eagles. I mean,
I
not
get it.
by a mile.
I get it.
But listen, that style of football works, okay? And that's how Mike Evans, I'm rolling my eyes, but if you want a khaki pants quarterback to work, there you go. Jalen Hurts, though, is beyond the quality of a khaki pants quarterback. He clearly was a draft mistake. Clearly, he's got the quality level of a top 10 quarterback. You know, that's just the truth of Jalen Hurts. That dude he's a dude. He's you know, and I think they'll be right back at it. I don't know why the Eagles wouldn't. I think the Niners are going to be good too, but I think those are going to be your two top teams in the NFC. And did you guys see the odds for the Broncos for the Super Bowl next year? Did you notice that?
We're going to get to that towards the end of the show, all thanks to Superbook. So hold on with that. But first we have to talk about the Nuggets real quick. They will be taking on the Heat. But also, Reggie Jackson returns to Denver, a hometown kid right here. What do we both think about Reggie Jackson? Do we like it, or do we think, they already got enough depth? James?
They definitely don't have enough depth, and I know they beat the Hornets the other night. Yeah. But you start looking at some of the guys that have to be out on the floor when players sit out. They need some more depth, so Reggie Jackson will help. That way Ish Smith can go back to sitting every single game. You know, will he help more this playoff run than Bones Highland would have? Probably. So, okay. I mean, a veteran guy, a guy you're not going to have to worry about being a problem in the locker room down the stretch, and Calvin Booth had to essentially 100% make sure that wasn't sitting there and a potential thing that could blow things up. So, okay, I'm fine with it. He's not a great player, but he's a very solid player. But Bones Highland wasn't a great player either. He had potential. Bones Highland, I thought, was a guy that, hey, he'd have one or two games in a long playoff run where he'd come off the bench, he'd give him a spark, and he'd help him win. Can Reggie Jackson have a game or two where, man, he just had a better offensive game than we all expected? Sure. So I think it's a fairly equitable trade. Long-term, Bones has more upside, but hey, we're worried about this year, so I'm fine with it. There you go, D-Mac. I was positive about the Nuggets.
You took like a dig at Ish. You're like, why does Ish got to take collateral damage right there? Ish has been terrific in his role that he's played in for the short time that he's been out there.
When his role is sitting.
Not recently. And, you know, the bench was a big – I know you want to just dismiss coming back from like 15 points down to win by 14. I know that doesn't fit into the James Marilaff, Teflon Mike narrative that they actually won a pretty cool road game, but they did.
A pretty cool road game. The Hornets are like 15-40.
I don't care. Winning road games is tough in the NBA, period. And you don't have Jamal Murray and you don't have Aaron Gordon. I like the W. I like DeAndre Jordan having impactful minutes and Ish Smith doing what he's doing. Do I like the deal? Yeah, I like the deal because you got two guys for two guys that you didn't. I mean, you got two guys. I mean, I like it. You got a backup center. You got yourself a reserve point guard. I like it. I think, and you got rid of Bones Highland, who was just wow. Now we really know how he felt about everything, and you can see how poison he really was behind the scenes. They were just not on the same page, and he had to go. I mean, seriously had to go.
I have a problem with two parts of that. One, man, there are a lot of people who were all Bones. They were, big time Bones fans and want the Bones t-shirt. And boy, they have bailed off of that bandwagon in a hurry. So, okay. And two, this whole narrative about Bones, very convenient for the Nuggets. It's so reminiscent of we offered Jeremy Grant the same amount of money, but he wanted to go live in Detroit and win 16 games a year. Not buying it for a second. It takes two to tango. This is all very lopsided, very one-sided. Bones is turned into the convenient person to blame it on. Nuggets media and the way they just, are we just going to let the PR staff write the articles, write the tweets, or are we going to put a little thought into them? Good grief. My goodness. Okay.
Well, luckily, we don't have to worry about Bones anymore. We wish him best with the Clippers, and we can focus on a hopeful... Oh, James, why are you giving me that look?
We may see Bones again. You never know.
I hope we do. I hope we do.
I hope we do, too.
I'm here for the chaos and the drama. I hope we do.
Throw Ish Smith on him. See how that goes.
Oh my gosh.
Defensively, it'll be fine. I mean, Ish could like back Bones down. Ish would kill Bones if Bones is covering Ish Smith.
I was rooting for him to get Patrick Beverly. That's they need some toughness, some meanness. But that's another topic for another day.
Another topic for another day. So let's get back into our way too early predictions when we look at next year's Super Bowl odds, excuse me. And it's interesting because we have the Chiefs at 6-1, the Chargers at 21, the Raiders at 31, and the Broncos at 40-1. And I'm surprised the Broncos are last on the list there. Chiefs don't surprise me one bit. I would count them in for making the Super Bowl next year. But just the fact that the Raiders and the disaster that is Josh McDaniels in Las Vegas, but also the Chargers and how we know they choke, the Broncos still come in last, James.
40-1 is a great value. Look, I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl, but you've got a Super Bowl winning head coach, a Super Bowl winning quarterback. You got to if you're trying to find a team that can make a dramatic turnaround from one season to the next, one of the best ways to do it is find a team that lost a bunch of one-score games, right? By the same token, if you want to try and predict somebody who's going to take a fall next year, find a team that won a bunch of one-score games, i.e. Minnesota, right? So I think the Broncos are a good value. The Chiefs should be there. The fact that the Bills are co-favorites, no, the Bills haven't shown that they can get out of the second round, so that's a little bit of an insult to the Chiefs. Chiefs clearly should be the favorites. Broncos are right there with everybody else. Raiders don't even know who their quarterback is.
That's what I'm shocked.
Ayahuasca, baby. Ayahuasca. That's who their quarterback's going to be.
Maybe.
But let me tell you this. If you stop with the Broncos there, but when you look at all the teams in the NFL, they're kind of in the middle, actually. And I think that's about right. I think they're probably about an 8-win team, and that's what, Superbook is telling us. Okay, fine. Are the Broncos going to win a Super Bowl next year? Well, no, of course not. I mean, that's not even against Russell Wilson or Sean Payton. You just don't have a lot of other parts that are going to take a couple of years to acquire. Never mind the Chiefs are in such a good spot. However, I would push you guys to say, I'm going to say something positive. Here we go. In 2013, 2012, Romeo Crennel had the Chiefs at 2-14. I mean, terrible. And that was a horrible year for a lot of off-the-field reasons, too. They hire Andy Reid, and they go 11-5. They bring in Alex Smith and replace Brady Quinn and Matt Castle with a real quarterback, Alex Smith. So what do we want out of Russell Wilson? Well, that year, Alex Smith threw for 3,200 yards, 60.6 completion rate, 23 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. That doesn't sound crazy. That sounds doable. They had a huge rushing attack from Jamal Charles with 1,200 yards. He had 1,500 the year before, so running sometimes is relative and doesn't matter. But when you put solid running with solid quarterback play, and also Alex Smith ran for like 7 touchdowns. So he was, moving around, doing something. These are all things Russell Wilson can do. Guys, they finished from 2-14 to 11-5. Second in the West to the Broncos. That was with Peyton Manning. And they lost 45-44 to Indianapolis in a wild card game. Exciting. Offense. Sign me up. If we have a year like that with a lot of promise in the future, then fine. And you know what they eventually had to do, guys, to win a championship? They did eventually have to move on from a veteran quarterback to a young and upcoming quarterback. They couldn't win it with Alex Smith. And frankly, it's unlikely the Broncos win it with Russell Wilson. But they have to be forthright in their thinking, guys. That's the big lesson. You can't just sit there and be satisfied. At some point, you got to do what it takes to get the right quarterback for you. Meanwhile, be competitive. Heck, you never know. Look how close Patrick Mahomes was to going down with an injury, and you were about to have Chad Henne play the second half of the Super Bowl. I mean, wow. I mean, things can happen. So I would stay optimistic, and with the right coach and the right quarterback, if we have that, which everybody tells me we do, you can go from 2-14 to 11-5. It happened, and it happened not that long ago.
Fair enough, D-Mac. Fair enough. I'm still a little hesitant, but that's obviously because
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it is. 12-5. That's what I heard. Mirror image.
No, I was saying it could happen. They're going to win 8 games. Superbook didn't get it wrong. They know.
Okay. Well, our 45 minutes always does go way too fast, but huge thank you to James, also to D-Mac, and to everybody in the comments, too. We see your comments. We love reading them. We love how engaged you guys are. We could not do the show without you.
We see you. GCU.
I know.
I think James Fairlott went on a little recruiting trip over the weekend.
Yeah.
Do you have any news there, James?
No, not yet, but it was impressive. Here's the news. College has changed a lot since I was going.
Ugh,
Shocker, right?
Did you take a walk around ASU in Tempe?
We did. That was our morning, and GSU was our afternoon. Both were very cool. The Palm Walk at ASU, pretty awesome.
Did you climb the A? Did you climb A Mountain?
We didn't have that much time. Thought about it. Tried to sneak into the stadium. Didn't quite work out, but that's okay.
Tried to sneak into the stadium. How did I miss this story? Anyways, all right. A huge thank you to Bath Dinner 2 for sponsoring Coffee Break. And again, to everybody in the comments, we can't wait to see you tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. We'll be back for another edition. See you guys tomorrow morning. Have a wonderful Monday.
Go Lopes!
Go Lopes!